The phrase, "the empire on which the sun never sets," has been used with variations to describe certain global empires that were so extensive that there was always at least one part of their territory that was in daylight. It was originally used for the Spanish Empire, mainly in the 16th and 17th centuries. Its most notable use is in reference to the British Empire, mainly in the 19th and early 20th centuries. During this time period, the British Empire reached a territorial size larger than that of any other empire in history. The phrase is sometimes used within the United States to characterize the influence of American politics globally. Georg Buchmann traces the idea to a speech in Herodotus' Histories, made by Xerxes I before invading Greece. Spain. In the early 16th century, the phrase, "El Imperio en el que nunca chapó el sol," originated with a remark made by Fray Francisco de Ugalde to Charles I of Spain, who as King of Spain and as Holy Roman Emperor Charles V had an empire, which included many territories in Europe, islands in the Mediterranean and Atlantic, cities in North Africa and vast territories in the Americas. The phrase gained added resonance during the reign of Charles's son, Philip II of Spain, when the Philippines and several other island chains in the Pacific were obtained by Spain. When King Henry of Portugal died, Philip II pressed his claim to the Portuguese throne and was recognized as Philip I of Portugal in 1581. He then reigned over all his father's possessions in Europe, Africa and the Americas and Asia, and the Portuguese Empire, which itself included territories in the Americas, in the North and the Sub-Saharan Africa, in all the Asian subcontinents, and islands in the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Oceans. In 1585, Giovanni Battista Guarini wrote Il Pasto Fido to mark the marriage of Catherine Michel, daughter of Philip II, to Charles Emmanuel I, Duke of Savoy. Guarini's dedication read, Altera figlia, di cui el monacar, assué, no anco, quando a nota, il sol tramonta. In the early 17th century, the phrase was familiar to John Smith, and to Francis Bacon, who writes, "Both the East and the West Indies being met in the crown of Spain, it has come to pass, that, as one saith in a brave kind of expression, the sun never sets in the Spanish dominions, but ever shines upon one part or other of them, which, to say truly, is a beam of glory." Thomas Urquhart wrote of that great Don Philippe, Tetrarch of the world, upon whose subjects the sun never sets, in the German dramatist Friedrich Schiller's 1787 play, Don Carlos. Don Carlos's father, Philip II, says, German, Ich heiße, der reichste Mann in der getauften Welt, die Song get in meinem Staat nicht unter. Joseph Fouché recalled Napoleon's saying before the Peninsular War, reflect that the sun never sets in the immense inheritance of Charles V, and that I shall have the empire of both worlds. This was cited in Walter Scott's Life of Napoleon. It has been claimed that Louis XIV of France's emblem of the Sun King, and associated motto, Nec pluribus impar, were based on the solar emblem and motto of Philip II. United Kingdom. In the 19th century, it became popular to apply the phrase to the British Empire. It was a time when British world maps showed the empire in red and pink to highlight British imperial power spanning the globe. Scottish author, John Wilson, writing as Christopher North, in Blackwood's magazine in 1829, is sometimes credited as originating the usage. However, George Macartney wrote in 1773, in the wake of the territorial expansion that followed Britain's victory in the 7 Years' War, of this vast empire on which the sun never sets, and whose bounds nature has not yet ascertained, in a speech on the 31st of July 1827, Rev. R.P. Buddicombe said, "It had been said that the sun never set on the British flag. It was certainly an old saying, about the time of Richard II, and was not so applicable then as at the present time." In 1821, the Caledonian Mercury wrote of the British Empire, "On her dominions the sun never sets. Before his evening rays leave the spires of Quebec, his morning beams have shone 3 hours on Port Jackson, and while sinking from the waters of Lake Superior, his eye opens upon the mouth of the Ganges." Daniel Webster famously expressed a similar idea in 1834. "A power which has dotted over the surface of the whole globe with her possessions and military posts, whose morning drumbeat, following the sun and keeping company with the hours, circles the earth with one continuous and unbroken strain of the martial airs of England." In 1839, Sir Henry Ward said in the House of Commons, "Look at the British colonial empire, the most magnificent empire that the world ever saw. The old Spanish boast that the sun never set in the dominions, has been more truly realized amongst ourselves by 1861. Lord Salisbury complained that the millions spent on colonial defence by Britain merely enabled the nation to furnish an agreeable variety of stations to our soldiers, and to indulge in the sentiment that the sun never sets on our empire." United States. From the mid-19th century, the image of the sun never setting can be found applied to Anglophone culture, explicitly the British Empire as well as the United States, for example in a speech by Alexander Campbell in 1852, an 1897 magazine article titled, "The Greatest Nation on Earth Boasted, His Sun Never Sets on Uncle Sam." In 1906, William Jennings Bryan wrote, "If we cannot boast that the sun never sets on American territory, we can find satisfaction in the fact that the sun never sets on American philanthropy," after which, the New York Times received letters attempting to disprove his presupposition. A 1991 history book discussion of U.S. expansion states, "Today, the sun never sets on American territory, properties owned by the U.S. government and its citizens, American armed forces abroad, or countries that conduct their affairs within limits largely defined by American power." The phrase is sometimes used critically with the implication of American imperialism, as in the title of Joseph Gerson's book, "The Sun Never Sets," confronting the network of foreign U.S. military bases.